And we're live. What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, Cheesehead TV, coming to you live on the YouTube channel. It is Thursday. It's about 5:30. I see a good number of you have already hopped on board the comments. Thanks for that. And thanks to everyone who checked out Packer Transplants last night. If you missed it, it is still up, obviously, on the YouTube channel and everywhere you get your podcasts. I did want to touch on the Packers statements today a little bit before we dive into football talk, and I won't probably be too interactive on this subject, but I did want to say I was immensely proud of what the Packers did. I think it's a really good start, especially Murphy's statement. I think that's pretty damn strong and pretty daring for a guy who obviously goes to ownership meetings with the rest of the NFL, is not an owner himself. I think he's really put himself out there with this statement, and I want to commend him as someone myself who has been somewhat critical of him at times for his stewardship of the franchise. I think in the last couple of years, really, he has really come to the fore and become a force, not only for good for the Packers, but for the community, and become an excellent representative for the Green Bay Packers. No greater, I think, example than the fact that he and his wife not only donated $240,000 of their own money to COVID-19 issues and support around Brown County, but also now today announcing a $250,000 donation again of their own money to Wisconsin social justice organizations. Now, I know the Packers have said that those organizations, the names of them, will be forthcoming. That is obviously something that they need to be held accountable for, see where that money goes, what they do with it. I'm also very interested in seeing what kind of follow-up we get from the Packers in regards to diversity hiring, things inside the building. But those are things that obviously I think Matt LaFleur's comment in the video that they put together said it best when he talked about actions needing to follow their words. And it is our job as Packers fans, as people who support the franchise and who have been there supporting the franchise long before most of the people in that building arrived, and obviously will be around long after a lot of them are gone. It is our job to make sure the Packers reflect what we want the Packers to be. We can talk, and we do, ad nauseum about the fact that we are the fans of the only quote unquote publicly owned team. Well, then it is on us to make our voices heard and to make sure we keep the Packers' feet to the fire, that they follow up on the things that we heard today. It's a great start from 1265 Lombardi. It's a great start from the Packers and their players. I love the idea that they let the players lead this thing. They put out that video, heard from players last night and today. Then Mark Murphy made his statement. I think that's a very smart way to go about it. But again, it is our job. It is incumbent upon us, fans of this team, to make sure we hold them accountable for these words. Because otherwise, it's just empty rhetoric, and we haven't done anything. And again, I'm not going to be too interactive on this, but just wanted to say that because it means a lot to me. The Packers obviously mean a lot to me. They have become very much my life. And I want them to reflect a positive way forward when it comes to social justice, when it comes to racism, etc. I want them to be leaders. And that's all I'll say about that. Hello to everybody in the comments. How are you guys? Stephen, thank you for the super chat. Never been more proud to be a Packers fan. Love this team. As do I, Stephen. As do I. Nathan, thanks for the super chat. My way of explaining best player available to people is by using the Outcast lyric, got it, just don't get it until there's nothing at all. Well, that breaks the ice. Thanks, Nathan. That's cheers to that. Jitsu, thanks. Nice, great question. Who is in more trouble if they don't perform, MVS or EQ? Got to be MVS, right? I think EQ clearly has a year off, so to speak. Wasn't able to participate last year in the implementation of a new scheme. So he's got a bit of a built-in excuse. Whereas MVS, he's had a year in the scheme, really fell off last year. Problem with drops, problem with route adjustments, etc. Yeah, I think it's definitely MVS between those two. When do I get back to the Cheesehead TV studios, Travis? That's an excellent question. I don't know. Let's put it this way. I just got ordered paint for this wall so I can paint it. So it's going to be a while. New York's going to be very slow to open up. I don't even think that first phase 1, what they're calling it, I don't think that even starts, or phase 2 that's going on upstate. I don't think that's coming to New York City until probably middle to end of the summer. So it's going to be a while. Hopefully by the time football season rolls around. That's my hope. But I'm pretty sure I'll be here for the remainder of the summer. Hey, Nags, what's up? Cheers, Pogs, what's up? If I had to pick one, Horning or Taylor, choosing between my kids, I'll probably take Taylor just because I think he was a mean son of a bitch who would run through your face, much like Marshawn Lynch famously said, run through a motherfucking face. I would probably take Taylor, but I know Horning was incredibly talented. He was Golden Boy. He was Lombardi's favorite, etc. It's hard to choose between the two, but just play style, give me Taylor. Bryson, thanks for the super chat. Does the 3 safety look eliminate the need for a really high level / highly paid inside linebacker in the Packers' eyes? Possibly. You can't argue. They always say actions speak louder than words, and their actions certainly would suggest that they don't see the need for a high level, quote unquote, inside linebacker. Even, maybe Kirksey is that guy in their eyes, but clearly he was available at a discounted rate for a reason because he has been injured the last few years. I do think, all things considered, if he stays healthy, he's an upgrade over Martinez. But I do think the 3 safeties, and the question I asked Pettin on that availability a couple weeks ago about his penchant for playing so many defensive backs, that has to play a role. There's no doubt about it. The idea that you're in sub at least 75% of the time, sub has become the new base. I definitely think that plays a role. And I think that's been an organizational thing since Ted took over. But I think it has to, right? It absolutely has to play a role. Will our run defense improve this year? Maybe Pettin has a better idea of his strengths on defense. One would hope, and I think that is a question. It's something we talked about a little bit on Transplants last night. I do think he has got to adjust somewhat. To me, the number one thing he can do is be a bit more aggressive on early downs. They were awfully passive throughout the year. And they got a little bit better as the year went on of controlling the run game, but I think they were really passive when it came to committing numbers to try and stop the run, especially even against run-heavy teams. They were passive, and by that I mean it was much more read and react rather than trying to run blitz early on in the down. I think if you try to force the issue a little bit on some teams, I think they'd have a little bit more success because I don't think they have a dominant front. I don't think, you get past Kenny Clark and you're playing with a lot of, I don't want to say bit players, but definitely role players. So it's not like you can just rush 4 every time and know that you're going to be able to control the run because you've got dominant players up front. They don't have that. So I think they have, or Pettin in particular, has to force the issue a little bit. I'm not saying you got to blitz every down. I'm not saying he's got to commit every time, but mix it up a little bit because last year he was very passive. Austin, thank you for the super chat. Is it fair to say that Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur's relationship is better than Ted Thompson and Mike McCarthy's relationship? Oh, I don't know. I think it's awfully early to say that. I think Ted and Mike were in lockstep early in their tenures, and I think that's a big part of why they brought a championship back to Green Bay. Let's see what happens a decade in. Don't forget the work that they did, the number of games that they won. That didn't just happen. They worked very well together. There is no question that Ted Thompson's MO and his reluctance to dip his toe into free agency even a little bit most of the time certainly wore on McCarthy as the years went on. And I think that's human nature. And I think that's part of the reason why, back to the old famous Bill Walsh quote when he talked about the shelf life for an NFL head coach in any city is roughly 10 years. And I do think part of that is the relationship you have working with personnel. You see the way other teams operate. And I think especially in Green Bay, there's no question that Mike got a little frustrated, not only with that aspect of it, but also because he was the face of the franchise, whether it was his decision he was talking about or not. 13 years of having to come out there and answer questions that you had no part in the decision-making process of, Ted never, ever spoke to the media as the years went on. So I do think that those frustrations definitely built up. Matt and Brian, clearly in lockstep at the moment. I think, I mentioned this earlier on Twitter, I think Mark Murphy needs to be commended for how he has guided this transition to the two of them. But it is still very early on. the early returns are good. There is no question about that. Let's see where things stand in 5 years. And I think obviously the big telling point of all of this will be the drafting of Jordan Love and how that works out, because they have pushed their chips into the table, the two of them, on Jordan Love. Who becomes a better Packer, Love or Gary? Yes. How's that? Bryson, thanks for the super chat. Can we bring Ted back just to draft wideouts in the second round and late round linemen? Well, hey, now wait. Let's let these late round linemen from this year, let them develop a little bit before we start pining for Ted's old linemen. But I definitely hear you on the second round wide receivers. Crazy how good he was at that. It's just nuts. After yesterday, no idea how anybody can still hate on Rodgers. Even saw Vikes fans show some respect. I love our quarterback. Sean, I agree. I can't tell you. After Rodgers put out his thing, it happened while we were on transplants, but I came back to a lot of non-Packers fans saying, "Oh, I hate the Packers, but I really respect Rodgers. I respect 12 for this, blah, 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 blah." I think it definitely spoke, and obviously it was somewhat in response to Drew Brees' comments yesterday morning. But yeah, I think I understand why people don't like him. I could never be one of them. Will the Packers stay in the dorms during training camp? Great question. I would tend to doubt it, but we'll see. It's a tradition, obviously. It goes back to the Lombardi era. I will be absolutely shocked if there are fans for training camp. And the other, the question of will they stay in the dorms? I would tend to doubt it. I would think they will most likely stay in their homes. Now, that said, there might be something to having them tested once and then put, before they go in, and then have them all in there and have them only be able to go between practice and the dorms. I don't think the players would ever sign off on that. But there's a bit of a risk to come in and play and then you go home, and who knows where the people at home have been, etc. Those are problems that will be solved way above my pay grade. No doubt about it. Man, I ain't touching that. Are there any good free agents left that the Packers should try to pick up? Snacks Harrison. No, that's never going to happen. I would still love it, but I know it's never going to happen. Taylor Gabriel's still out there. Wouldn't mind that one. But, yeah, I know they like the receivers that they got. So that's not going to happen either. When is Wisconsin going to take back the UP from Michigan? How long must we wait? That's probably one of my favorite chat questions ever. I don't know, but we have to form a well-regulated militia to do this. Can you give us story time, Negs? No, but I was thinking I may do a special chat about football and Packers books because obviously we've got a long off season ahead still. They're not going to be mini camps, so blah, 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 no OTAs. So I thought maybe something to break up the monotony would be just a chat about a bunch of the best Packers books that are out there that you've read, that I've read, etc. So that'll be kind of a story time. What does DeGuara bring to the table? Robert, excellent question. Athleticism, a real penchant for being able to do a lot of different things. I do think he's not going to be an immediate difference maker. I think he has the potential to grow into one. I think he can play all over the formation. He can play in the backfield as an H-back. He can play in line, although I don't think that will be his main kind of responsibility. I do think he's a bit better blocker than maybe some people are giving him credit for. But really, he's an athlete and a guy that in space is going to be able to he's got some real wiggle and an ability to get open in a way that we have not seen in Green Bay at the tight end position in quite some time. So it's going to take a bit. I don't expect him to come in and light it up right away, but they will undoubtedly want to get him in there sooner rather than later to help him kind of keep developing. I love you, Tom Grassi. Can you please address the backlash Cheesehead TV is currently facing by not putting Dusty's face on a shirt?
You think Dusty's face should be on a shirt? My face was born on a shirt, molded by it. Actually, it's Corey Banky's face on the shirt.
I sent a message to Murphy Takes 5 a few weeks ago about the lack of diversity in the Packers front office positions. when you saw about Charles Walls. I hope he answers it tomorrow. I'd be shocked if he does, but it'd be lovely. Yeah, that was something I was alluding to the very first part of the video here. If you missed it, I highly encourage you to go back and watch it. Javier, thanks for the super chat, buddy. Who do you think is more likely to price themselves out of Green Bay if they're not signed before the season ends? Bakhtiari, Jones, or King? Of course, assuming Clark is a lock. Yeah, Clark is a lock. Ooh, those three? Man. Most likely to price themselves out of Green Bay. I mean, it's got to be Bakhtiari, right? I mean, I got to think they're going to pay him whatever the hell they got to pay him, but it is a third contract. I don't know, man. That's a tough one. It's Bakhtiari or Jones. I don't think it's King. Das is Was, thanks for the super chat. How much have you dove into Love's tape? Not a ton. I've watched enough to get the feel for his game. It's not like I've watched every start, but I certainly see the upside. You see the power in his arm. You see the legs and the athleticism. He's got the tools. There's zero question about that. It is notable from 2018 to 2019 how I want to say scattershot, but it's just the supporting staff isn't there. The supporting cast isn't there. The staff is different, and it very much comes across. If you're just watching cut-ups and you know, okay, I'm watching 2018, and then you watch, okay, I'm watching 2019, it is very apparent that the discipline is not as good. His decision-making is off. And I do wonder how much of that is coaching, how much of it is trust for his receivers versus trying to do too much, trying to or thinking you can do it all with your legs and your arm, and you don't really need to trust whatever you see progression-wise, etc. Those are the things that the Packers have to hammer out. Those are the things that Matt LaFleur is going to make or break his career with, at least in Green Bay. Because if he can bring Jordan Love along and mold him into not even just he doesn't have to be even a top 5 franchise quarterback, but even if he's just a very good quarterback, they can win a ton of games with the tools that he has. Now, he could end up being special for all we know. I mean, I have no idea, but I see the upside. The ceiling is definitely there, and it is way, way high, but he's got a lot of work to do to reach that ceiling. Let me see. Who's the MVP of this year's training camp? Ooh, good question. Kingsley Kiki. How's that? Like the video, friends. Thank you. Yeah, hit like, hit subscribe. Assuming too that Lindsley is out, by the way, I would tend to agree. I said that a couple weeks ago. I've said it pretty much since that third day of the draft. It's pretty clear that they're prepping for life after Lindsley. Now, maybe this is a big long shot. Maybe they approach him about a hometown discount to keep him around. But I would be absolutely shocked given the logjam, so to speak, they have that is starting to form along the interior. Oh, Bryson, thanks again for the super chat. Vikings are Bears' biggest threat this year. Probably the Bears, as much as I hate to say it. The Vikings have, a 15-person draft class? Lost Stephon Diggs. They're still a tough out, but between those two, I think the Bears, if they get competent quarterback play, which Nick Foles should give them, I think they're a tough out. So I think they'll both be tough. There's no doubt about it. Big B! Nagler, how is your dog? Dog is great. Thanks for asking. Haroon, who is the funniest Packer you've ever talked to? Oh, God, that's a good question. I don't know. Brett Favre, probably. But maybe, I don't know. Mike Daniels is pretty damn funny. I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. Do I really believe Gutekunst when he said best player available? Well, it depends on which instance you're talking about. If you're talking about Love, I think there are a lot of special circumstances there. There's a reason they traded up. They believe in him, clearly. But, best player available, this is something we talked about last night on Transplants. The draft is a very fluid thing, right? So this idea that whatever pick is like this set in stone in the sense of like that's exactly what they should have done on all 7 rounds. It's, maybe they tried to trade down. Maybe they tried to trade up. Maybe they thought someone would be available who ended up not being. There are so many variables each and every time you're on the clock. It's hard for me to say, they clearly didn't go best player available. Well, how the hell are you supposed to figure that out until you let it play out? That's just me. And I understand there are fans of the draft who very much do not operate in that way. They do all that research the 3-4 months leading up to the draft, hell, a year leading up to the draft, and then they make their determinations about here was good value. But I understand that. That is one way to consume the draft. I do not. Who in the secondary takes the biggest leap this year? Kadar Holman. I think that kid's got all the tools. He really showed out in camp last year as a guy who can give them sticky man coverage, bump and run corner. He's got some work to do physicality-wise. Hopefully, this offseason he's getting after it in the gym. But, yeah, I think that he's a guy who, especially now that Tramon Williams is not being brought back, at least early June, he's got an opportunity in front of him. And I really liked what we saw last year. So I tend to think he's the guy who could surprise / take that jump. Who replaces Lindsley next year? Good question, Peter. We'll see. Maybe the kid from Oregon. Maybe Patrick. Maybe they slide over Jenkins, although I doubt it. I think they've locked Jenkins in the left guard. But, yeah, it could be any one of those guys. We'll have to wait and see. Why does the media think we will suddenly suck this year, all because we did not draft a wide receiver? I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of they're going to suck. I've seen a lot of they're going to take a step back, which is a reasonable take. Look at all the games they won last year by one score. It's the idea that they were this 13-3 juggernaut is a little misplaced, I think. It's, yes, were they a game away from the Super Bowl? Absolutely. That is a fact. You cannot take it away from them. But you can't sit there all last offseason, and I know a lot of you did because I was one of you, saying, oh, look at all the close games the Bears won. They're primed for a letdown. Well, lo and behold, look what happened. The Packers are in a very similar situation heading into this season, especially because, A, they won a lot of close games because of turnover differential and because of really good play in the red zone on both ends, both offense and defense. Now, I think they can continue. The good play in the red zone is certainly something you can sustain. It's a sustainable aspect of your winning. Turnover differential, it's a little different. We'll see if they can continue down that path. And then the other variable, of course, is health. They were an insanely healthy team last year. The healthiest I have seen the Green Bay Packers probably over a decade at least. So there are a lot of reasons to think the Packers could very well take a step back, quote unquote, when it comes to their overall record. They could still be a better team, but we'll see. But so that's to the point, the question, Joey. I don't think most media outlets, at least that I've seen, are saying they're going to suck. I just think it's reasonable to think they could take a step back in the win-loss call. That's all. Otis, thanks for the super chat, buddy. Lots of crazy going on in 2020. At this rate, the Lions will win the Super Bowl. Hey, who knows? Hey, did you know this? Speaking of the Lions, I didn't really even realize this until I read it yesterday, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit. The Lions have never won the NFC North? What? They won the Central, but they've never won the North. That's crazy to me. I don't know. Maybe I misread it. I don't know. That's just nuts. Let me see here. Let me make sure I'm not missing any super chats. Oh, Skip 55. Thanks, buddy. Okay. Good. Just making sure. All right. I think I missed one earlier. Wait. Okay. No, I didn't. Okay. I'm good. All right. Rock and roll. I got Javier. I got Otis. That was my last one. Javier again. There we go. With the weird offseason, do you think the Vikings drop all the way down in the division with all their rookies? That'd be fun. It would be fun. I don't think they do. I think they've got too much talent, frontline talent, for that to happen. Now, who knows about their depth? But as much as we like to make fun of Kirk Cousins, he is efficient, and he does do a pretty good job. And Dalvin Cook is no joke. Obviously, they still got a really good wide receiver. And then on the defense, that's Zimmer's bread and butter. They have completely overhauled the defensive backfield. We'll see how that gels, but I think Zimmer's too good a coach for that team to fall apart, unfortunately. Bryson, thanks again, buddy. Can't wait until week 3 when we beat the worst 13-3 team ever last year. Now you're talking. That Saints game, Z putting up that thing on Instagram. Come on. People, they are ready to get out. I love especially the juxtaposition too yesterday of at one point in the evening, Kevin King puts out this really impassioned, well-considered message to Drew Brees. He literally added Drew Brees on Insta. And 6 minutes of like really speaking from the heart. And then Z just puts up week 3 at New Orleans. Buy your tickets. I love it. They're coming after you, Drew. Good luck, buddy. Big Daddy Cool Breeze is in the house just in time for me to take off. Oh, wait, skip 55. Oh, boy, here we go. Nagler, saw a rumor that if Raji comes back from his hiatus, the coronavirus disappears. Can you confirm? I can confirm. BJ, listen to me now and hear me later. Come on, buddy. It is time. Announce your reinstatement from retirement. Come on back. Help Kenny Clark whoop some butt up front and kick the coronavirus's ass. How's that? All right, guys, I'm going to have to go. Can't thank you guys enough. Please, please, please consider hitting like on this video, hitting subscribe on the channel. And if you like what we do at Cheesehead TV, like, say, yesterday when we had a live show complete with graphics and audio and 2 people working on it for LiveX from 3 different remote locations, that shit doesn't just happen. So if you want to support what we do at Cheesehead TV, please consider giving us $5 a month on our Patreon channel, patreon.com/cheeseheadtv. Can't thank you enough for the support, the interaction. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Go Pack Go.